In the frontier town of Red Willow, death was not a mystery, it was arithmetic. Gabriel kept it that way. Each morning, before the heat rose and the dust began to cling to boots and skin, he unlocked the narrow office beside the sheriff's station. Inside waited shelves of ledgers, their spines cracked and darkened by time. Every life lost on the frontier, gunshot, fever, stampede, hanging, or simple bad luck was written in his careful hand. Name, age, date, location of burial. Gabriel believed that if death had to come, it deserved accuracy. He dipped his pen and added a neat line beneath yesterday's entry. Another ranch hand trampled by a spooked horse. He paused a moment, after finishing, eyes lingering on the ink until it dried. Then he closed the book. Outside, Red Willow was already awake. Wagons creaked, a hammer rang against wood. Somewhere, a piano struggled through a cheerful tune that didn't quite fit the town. Gabriel adjusted his spectacles and stepped into the street. He was not a man, most people noticed. He dressed plainly, spoke softly, and kept to himself. But when someone died, everyone came to him. Eventually, widows asked for confirmation. Sheriffs asked for records. Preachers asked for dates. And sometimes, the living came with anger. She arrived just before noon. Gabriel was midway through reviewing last month's entries when the door opened without a knock. He looked up, already forming a polite rebuke, and stopped. The woman stood rigid in the doorway, dust clinging to the hem of her dark skirt. Her hair was pulled back too tightly, as if she'd done it in a hurry or in anger. Her eyes sharp, dark, unblinking, locked onto him, like the barrel of a rifle. "Are you Gabriel?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," he said carefully. "How can I help you?" She stepped inside and shut the door behind her. The room suddenly felt smaller. "My name is Daniela Reyes," she said. "And you declared my brother dead." Gabriel felt a familiar tightening in his chest. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "If you'll sit, I can." "I don't want to sit," she snapped. "I want you to explain why my brother's name is written in your book when he walked away from our ranch alive." Gabriel stood slowly. "What was your brother's name?" "Mateo Reyes." The name struck him like a misplaced line of ink. He turned, pulled a ledger from the shelf, and flipped through the pages with practiced ease. There it was, Mateo Reyes, age 27, gunshot wound, found near Cottonwood Gulch. Daniela leaned over the desk, eyes scanning the entry. Her hands curled into fists. "This is wrong," she said. "Mateo never went near Cottonwood Gulch." Gabriel met her gaze. "I recorded the death as it was reported and verified." "By who?" "A deputy and a trailhand who identified the body." She laughed sharply, without humor. "Then they identified the wrong man." Gabriel hesitated. Mistakes were rare but not impossible. The frontier didn't always leave clear faces behind. Daniela straightened. "My brother had a scar on his left hand, from a branding iron. Did your corpse have that?" Gabriel swallowed. He had not seen the body himself. "I don't know," he admitted. "Then erase his name," she said. "Because until you do, my brother is buried alive in your books." Silence settled between them, heavy as a coffin lid. Gabriel looked down at the ledger again. For the first time in years, the ink didn't feel permanent. After Daniela left, Gabriel did not close the ledger. The door had barely stopped swinging when he sank back into his chair, eyes fixed on Mateo Reyes's name. He had written thousands of them over the years. Most blurred together, letters without faces, endings without echoes. But this one seemed to press back at him, stubborn and alive. He prided himself on precision. The dead were counted so the living could move on. Yet Daniela's voice lingered in the room like dust that refused to settle. "Then erase his name." Gabriel rubbed his temples. Erasing was not something he did. A ledger, once written, became record. Altering it meant admitting error in a town like Red Willow. Certainty was currency. By mid-afternoon, he found himself standing outside the sheriff's office. Sheriff Alden looked up from his desk, mustache twitching. "You here to argue dates again, Gabriel?" "No," Gabriel said. I need to ask about a body found near Cottonwood Gulch, late March. The sheriff leaned back. Gunshot victim, listed as Mateo Reyes. Alden frowned. I remember that one. Face was a mess. Deputy Collins swore it was Reyes, based on the clothes and a letter in the pocket. A letter, Gabriel asked. Burned, half to nothing. Had the name Reyes on it. Gabriel felt unease curl in his stomach. Was the body examined closely? Alden shrugged. As close as we get around here. You think it wasn't him? I don't know, Gabriel said. But his sister insists he's alive. Alden snorted. Sisters insist on a lot of things. That night, Gabriel could not sleep. The wind rattled his window, and the ticking of his clock sounded louder than usual. He kept seeing Daniela's eyes, how they had held both fury and hope, a dangerous combination. By morning, he made a decision he had never made before. He would investigate. Cottonwood Gulch lay half a day's ride from town. Gabriel borrowed a horse awkwardly, as he was not a confident rider, and followed the winding trail through dry brush and stone. The place where the body had been found was marked only by memory and rumor, but the land itself seemed to remember violence. Scorched earth, a broken wagon wheel, half buried in dirt. He dismounted carefully. There was no body, of course, but near a cluster of rocks, he found something small, and overlooked a scrap of cloth caught on a thorn bush. He pulled it free. The fabric was coarse, dark blue. Daniela had worn the same color the day before. His pulse quickened. If Mateo had been here, he might have left behind more than a name. When Gabriel returned to town at dusk, Daniela was waiting outside his office. She stood with her arms crossed, jaw tight. You're late, she said. I went to Cottonwood Gulch, Gabriel replied. Her posture shifted instantly. I found no proof your brother died there, he said carefully, but I found reason to doubt he did. Daniela exhaled sharply, as if she'd been holding her breath for weeks. Then help me, she said. People won't listen to a woman chasing a ghost, but they listen to you. Gabriel hesitated. If I reopen this case, it may anger some people. They already buried my brother, she said. How much worse can it get? He studied her face, seeing past the anger now to exhaustion, to grief stretched thin by uncertainty. I will not erase his name, Gabriel said. Not yet. Daniela's eyes flashed, but he continued. I will not let it rest either. Something softened in her expression. She nodded once. That's all I ask. As she turned to leave, Gabriel realized something unsettling. For the first time, he wanted one of his deaths to be wrong. Word traveled quickly in Red Willow, and by the third day, Gabriel felt it in the way conversation stopped when he entered a room. The bookkeeper who counted coffins was asking questions again. That alone made people uneasy. Daniela met him each morning outside his office. She brought information, names, rumors, anything that might point to Mateo's path after the day he supposedly died. Gabriel brought structure, dates, timelines, lists. They made an unlikely pair. Daniela was fire and motion, restless as the plains wind. Gabriel was careful and contained. His thoughts lined up like columns in a ledger. Yet, as they worked side by side, something quiet began to form between them, a rhythm. Unspoken but steady. They learned Mateo had been arguing with a ranch owner 2 days before his reported death. They learned he had been seen riding east, not toward Cottonwood Gulch. And they learned something more troubling. Another man had gone missing the same week. A drifter with no family to ask questions. That could have been the body, Daniela said, pacing the room. Someone easier to bury in silence. Gabriel nodded. Anonymous deaths are rarely challenged. The realization sat heavily between them. One afternoon, Gabriel pulled out a smaller ledger, his private notes. I've been reviewing other entries from that month, he said. There are discrepancies, missing confirmations, hastily written causes of death. Daniela leaned closer, reading over his shoulder. He became acutely aware of her presence, the warmth of her arm near his, the faint scent of soap and dust. You never questioned these before? She asked softly. I didn't have reason to, Gabriel replied. The frontier teaches you to accept loss quickly." She looked at him, then really looked. "And what did it teach you to do with the living?" The question struck deeper than he expected. Gabriel had no answer. That evening, they rode together to an outlying ranch where Matteo had last worked. The sun dipped low, painting the land in amber and shadow. Daniela rode with practiced ease, while Gabriel held the reins tightly, jaw clenched. "You don't ride much," she said. "I count," he replied. "Safe." She smiled faintly. "Nothing out here is safe." At the ranch, an old foreman finally admitted the truth. Matteo had been accused of theft. Wrongly, he claimed, but the accusation had turned ugly. Shots were fired. Matteo fled. "He was wounded," the foreman said. "But alive." Daniela's breath caught. "Where did he go?" The man shook his head. "Didn't say. Just wanted to disappear." On the ride back, silence stretched between them. The stars emerged one by one, cold and distant. "He's alive," Daniela whispered. "I know it," Gabriel said. "But someone wanted him dead on paper." As days passed, threats followed. Anonymous notes. Warnings to stop digging. The sheriff grew distant. Friends avoided Gabriel's gaze. One night, Gabriel found his office door forced open. Ledgers lay scattered across the floor, pages torn and trampled. But one book was missing. The ledger containing Matteo's name. Daniela arrived, moments later, breathless. "They're trying to erase the truth," she said. Gabriel felt fear, sharp and unfamiliar. But beneath it was resolve. "They can take the book," he said. "They cannot take what I remember." He looked at Daniela, seeing her not just as a woman searching for her brother, but as someone who had unsettled the careful walls he'd built around himself. "If we continue," he said, "we risk more than reputations." She met his gaze, without hesitation. "I've already risked everything." Gabriel nodded slowly. Then he reached for her hand, not in comfort, but in promise. Red Willow no longer felt like home. Every step Gabriel took through town felt measured by unseen eyes. Doors closed faster, voices dropped. Even the wind seemed to carry warnings. Someone powerful had decided the past should remain buried. Gabriel and Daniela were now standing in the way. The missing ledger was never returned. Instead, the sheriff summoned Gabriel to his office. Sheriff Alden didn't offer a chair this time. "You've caused enough trouble," he said. "People are nervous. Business is slowing. You're digging up ghosts." "I'm correcting a record," Gabriel replied calmly. Alden slammed his palm on the desk. "You're undermining order. That death was settled." "It was convenient," Gabriel said. "Not settled." The sheriff's eyes hardened. "If you keep this up, you'll find yourself alone." Gabriel left, knowing the warning was not empty. That night, Daniela came to him with urgency written across her face. "I found something," she whispered, locking the door behind her. "A man in Pine Ridge. He saw Matteo weeks after he was declared dead." Gabriel's heart pounded. Why didn't he come forward? Because the men who accused Matteo are buying land. Influence silence. She clenched her fists. They wanted him gone, not dead. The corpse was just insurance. They decided to leave town before dawn. If Matteo was alive, the truth might still be out there. But staying in Red Willow meant being erased, slowly, quietly, just like Matteo had been. They packed lightly. Before leaving, Gabriel stood alone in his office one last time. The shelves looked bare without the ledgers. He ran his fingers along the desk where he had spent years recording endings. "I never imagined leaving," he said softly. Daniela watched him. "You can come back," she said. "Or you can become someone else." He turned to her. "You changed everything." She held his gaze. "So did you." As they rode out under cover of darkness, a gunshot cracked the air. The horse reared. Gabriel nearly lost his balance. Daniela drew her pistol, scanning the ridge. "They're trying to scare us," she said. They spurred the horses forward, hearts racing, until the town disappeared behind them. By dawn, they reached Pine Ridge. The witness was there, shaken but alive. He described Matteo, his scarred hand, his limp, The way he spoke of leaving the territory altogether, he said. If his name was ever cleared, the man said, he might come back. Gabriel felt a strange weight lift from his chest. Mateo Reyes was alive. But truth, Gabriel realized, was not enough. They returned to Red Willow, days later. Not quietly this time. Gabriel walked straight into the sheriff's office and placed a written affidavit on the desk. This town has buried living men, he said, and I will not count another lie. The sheriff stared at the paper. The room filled with tension, thick as dust. Outside, people gathered. Whispers spread. Daniela stood at Gabriel's side, unwavering. For the first time, Gabriel understood something he had avoided his entire life. The dead were easy. It was the living who demanded courage. Red Willow did not change all at once. Truth never does. At first, there was only discomfort. People shifted uneasily when Gabriel passed. Conversations circled back on themselves. The affidavit he had placed on the sheriff's desk became the quiet center of the town's unrest. Passed hand to hand, read in whispers. The ranch owner who had accused Mateo Reyes denied everything. The deputy who had identified the body suddenly could not remember details. But memory, once questioned, unraveled quickly. Gabriel reopened his records publicly. Standing inside the church, he read names, aloud, men and women, buried without witnesses, listed without proof, forgotten too easily. Each name landed like a stone dropped into water, ripples spreading through the room. This ledger, Gabriel said, holding the worn book high, was meant to honor the dead. But it has also been used to silence the living. Daniela stood beside him, her presence steady and fierce. For the first time since she'd arrived in Red Willow, she was not alone in her fight. Pressure mounted. Merchants demanded answers. Families began asking questions of their own. And eventually, the sheriff resigned not in shame, but in defeat. The town could no longer pretend certainty where there was none. Weeks later, a rider appeared at the edge of town. Daniela saw him first. She did not run. She did not cry out. She simply walked forward, heart pounding, until the man dismounted. Mateo Reyes stood before Herthanar, scarred, alive. His left hand bore the mark she had never forgotten. They embraced, without words. Gabriel watched from a distance, something tight in his chest finally loosening. He had spent years counting endings, never imagining he might help restore a beginning. Mateo chose not to stay long. Red Willow held too many ghosts for him. But before he left, he took Gabriel's hand. "You gave me back my name," Mateo said. "No," Gabriel replied. "It was never mine to take." Life slowly found a new rhythm. Gabriel rewrote the ledger, erasing the past, but correcting it. Next to Mateo's name, he added a rare notation. Declared dead in error. Confirmed living. Daniela remained in town. She helped Gabriel reorganize the records, turning numbers into stories, names into remembered lives. Their partnership grew quietly, built on shared purpose rather than promises. One evening, as the sun sank low and painted the land gold, Daniela closed the ledger and looked at Gabriel. "You know," she said, "there are worse things than being counted." Fee smiled a small, honest smile. "And better things than being forgotten." Together, they stepped outside, leaving the office door open behind them. For the first time in Red Willow, the dead rested easier, and the living finally mattered. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Western stories.